Have you ever stopped to think that the true value of someone doesn't always come from the title they hold or the position they occupy? What if I told you that a simple housemaid with no title, no medical degree, could save a life in a matter of seconds, while someone with years of experience in the higher spheres of the family just stood by and watched? This really happened, and it's a story that will make you rethink everything you believe about hierarchies, status, and most importantly, about the power of acting at the right moment. Picture the scene: a wealthy family, an imminent life-threatening situation, and an employee who, with a single action, makes the difference between life and death. The most shocking part: the person who should have acted didn't. The one who wasn't supposed to be in the spotlight was the real hero of the story. The real question is, would you know how to act when it truly mattered? And more importantly, how do you treat those around you, even if their role seems to be just to watch? This story isn't about status or who holds the most influence. It's about people. And in the end, you'll be surprised by what a simple change of attitude can do. Not only for yourself but for everyone around you. Are you ready to change the way you see the world? Let's begin. Carlos Almeida, an agribusiness entrepreneur, was sitting at the dinner table with his second wife, Lorena. It was an evening like any other, but this time with a few business guests. The house was beautifully decorated, softly lit, and conversations flowed naturally among the adults. Carlos, as always, paid close attention to the details of the gathering and was especially watchful of his son, Lucas, who was doing his best to follow every rule. 9-year-old Lucas was determined to be the perfect son that night, behaving like a model of etiquette. Lorena, with her sharp eye and controlled demeanor, tried to maintain composure in front of the guests, hiding her slight irritation with Lucas's overly meticulous behavior. For her, rigid posture and exemplary conduct were crucial during formal dinners. The family's image had to remain flawless. Yet, something about Lucas's exaggerated effort, how he handled the cutlery or adjusted his posture, quietly tested her patience. Juliana Costa, the housemaid, had been working in the household for years and knew the routines and moods of the family better than anyone. She moved around with grace and attentiveness, always observing, even when it wasn't part of her job. Though she never interfered, she cared deeply for Lucas and often tried to diffuse tension subtly. Having served the family for so long, she felt a natural bond with them, even if she remained in the background, respecting her role. During dinner, everything seemed peaceful until suddenly Lucas began choking on a piece of meat. He tried to discreetly signal for help, but the gesture was so subtle that no one noticed. His eyes widened, his breath grew shallow, but the adults' conversation carried on undisturbed. Lorena, absorbed in the business discussion, glanced at Lucas but misunderstood the situation. Annoyed, she assumed he was trying to draw attention inappropriately. Meanwhile, Lucas struggled silently, torn between his fear and his determination to behave properly. His vision blurred as panic set in. All he could think was, "Someone needs to notice me." But Juliana noticed. Her sharp eye caught Lucas's distress, and she immediately recognized the signs of choking. Years ago, she had faced a similar moment when her younger sister almost choked on an apple slice. That memory and instinct came rushing back. She knew she had to act fast. Without hesitation, Juliana stood up, interrupting the conversation with a firm voice. "Lucas is choking." The table went silent. Lorena turned to her with irritation, as if the maid had interrupted needlessly. "Don't exaggerate," she dismissed. But Juliana knew better. Calm and focused, she stepped beside Lucas and began performing the Heimlich maneuver. She wasn't a doctor, but experience and instinct guided her hands. Every second mattered. Each movement pressed against Lucas's tense body until finally, after what felt like an eternity, the piece of meat flew out. Lucas gasped, coughed, and at last breathed freely. Relief washed over the room. The boy looked at Juliana with gratitude and surprise, while everyone else sat in stunned silence. Carlos, overwhelmed with relief, rushed to Juliana. "You saved my son's life, Juliana. I have no words to thank you." His sincerity was undeniable, and emotion filled his voice. For him, this wasn't just a choking incident, it could have been a tragedy. But Lorena's response was very different. Instead of gratitude, she lashed out. "You're not a doctor. How dare you do this without consulting a professional?" Her disbelief and irritation overshadowed the relief of the moment. For her, it was unacceptable that a housemaid had stepped into such a critical role. Carlos refused to let Lorena's words stand. He reviewed the security camera footage and saw everything. Lucas's choking, Juliana's quick response, and her decisive actions. The truth was undeniable. Juliana had saved their son's life. Carlos made an immediate decision. He implemented first aid training for all household staff, from cooks to drivers. Never again would he allow such risks to go unprepared. To honor Juliana's courage, he also promoted her and tripled her salary. For Juliana, it was an overwhelming surprise. After years of silent work, she was finally being recognized and treated with dignity. But not everyone accepted the change. Lorena, unable to cope with Juliana's newfound importance in the household, grew increasingly distant. Resentment consumed her until, eventually, she asked for a divorce. Though turmoil followed, for Juliana the moment marked a turning point. She had proven her worth, not by titles, but by action. To Carlos and Lucas, she was not just an employee, but a true hero. Now that you've heard this powerful story, the big question is, how would you react in a similar situation? Did you know that simple skills like first aid can mean the difference between life and death? Think about it. How often do we underestimate those around us? Sometimes, the most unexpected people make the greatest difference when it matters most. So what if you started seeing people differently? Valuing them more, no matter their role? If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and keep learning. There's so much more to discover about how small actions can create life-changing transformations. Are you ready to put this lesson into practice? Let's move forward.